What's the thing you're most scared of? Heights, bugs, snakes, the unknown, the dark. These are just incredibly common fears. Well, for Christians, there's actually a pretty common fear that most of us share, that most non-Christians might not guess at. And that's sharing the gospel. And if you're listening to this short and you say, oh, that's not me, I'll share the gospel with anybody, that's fantastic. I'm very jealous of you. Persecution in the form of just embarrassment or being looked at as a social outcast or possibly facing someone's anger or something like that is sometimes enough to dissuade a majority of Christians from sharing the gospel with somebody. They don't stop a random person in a store because that might be awkward. A lot of people, they don't think they're good at speaking. They don't know how they'd start that conversation. When we look in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, Paul explains that the most effective method he found for spreading Jesus and really seeing growth from his words was just by being as simple as possible. Look here in chapter 2, verse 1. It says, "When I came to you, brothers and sisters, announcing the mystery of God to you, I did not come with brilliance of speech or wisdom. I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. I came to you in weakness and fear and in much trembling. My speech and my preaching were not with persuasive words of wisdom, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not be based on human wisdom, but on God's power." Paul said that, he's basically saying, man, if you can be convinced to be Christian, then you can be convinced to not be Christian. And so it's just when we preach the message of Jesus that salvation is found. Look here in Romans chapter 10, verse 9. "If you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. One believes with the heart, resulting in righteousness, and one confesses with the mouth, resulting in salvation. For the scripture says, everyone who believes on him will not be put to shame, since there is no distinction between Jew and Greek, because the same Lord of all richly blesses all who call on him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved." If you can share that passage, if you can read that message, you can share the gospel without fear.